Welcome back to another edition of the Daily Night. I'm your host, Brian Smith, and today is a memorable one for the UCF football program and for the athletic program overall. This is a situation where all the powers that be at UCF have come together with the American Athletic Conference, as well as Cincinnati, as well as Houston, etc., and they are going to be joining the Big 12 officially, not this upcoming school year, but the one following. We kind of knew this, but to make it official, that's what it is. It's either a yay or nay. And the paperwork is being taken care of now, and UCF is going on to the Big 12 in 2023, along with the AAC brethren of Cincinnati and Houston, and BYU will also be joining, and I'll be talking about all of those in just a moment. But first off, note the following. If you think back through the history of UCF and the press release they emailed all of us in the media, by the way, it's very, very helpful. I'm looking at it now on my other screen. And to be really honest, I mean, they were in the Sunshine State Conference. I don't even know what the heck that is, starting in 1975. I have no idea. American South in 1990, New South Women's Athletic Conference was a part of it, Sun Belt, Atlantic Sun. There's all kinds of stuff that I really don't know much about. They were in the Mid-American Conference for a couple of years, 2002 to 2004. I'm from the Midwest originally. That is not something you would think UCF did, but that just shows you how wide it can be for conference affiliation. So UCF is now moving on, and I want to talk a little bit about scheduling, what it means short-term and long-term, because there's still more movement with the Big 12 to be seen. Unless you've been living under a rock, Oklahoma, Texas are both leaving. I don't know if anything else is going to transpire with the Big 12. I'm very hesitant to say, well, it's just going to be these four schools, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. As soon as I say that, something else will transpire. But as of today, that is true. So what does that leave? Off the top of my head, Texas and Oklahoma for now. Around the 25 season, either that's going to be their last, etc. That's to be determined. But that's something to think about. There's also the situation where UCF is going to have the other programs like Kansas State, and Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. Those are the schools from outside the state of Texas that are the primaries. And then there's also, again, you got the three that come into the conference with them, but you have Texas Tech, you have the University of Texas, that's the big one for short term. You also have Baylor, which I think is a very, very key program. And you have TCU. Now, is there anything about that makes any one of these a rival, a team you should play? How do you do the alignments in the divisions? All of these are questions I have just as a college football fan, and it's probably something that a lot of people have as well around the country. The Big 12 is very unique because you have BYU that's in Utah. You've got all the way out to Cincinnati and then even to West Virginia. And then you come down south, you have UCF, and then you have the schools that kind of line around the state of Texas or are in the state of Texas. And then you go back up to Kansas, have a couple of schools. You have Iowa with Iowa State. It's a very unique and broad conference. So a couple of points, and this is just pure conjecture on my point. I have not talked to anybody about this, and even if I did, and they said go ahead and share it, it wouldn't mean much because when business parties like this get together, it's all about what's in it for me. And that's why like the college football playoff didn't get done with the expansion, et cetera. It's very, very complex and a lot of stubborn people trying to get exactly what they want, which usually doesn't work out well. So you get this many teams together, there could be some conflicts. But here's what's on the table, potentially speaking, as far as conferences, figuring this out. SEC's going through this because they're expanding with the Big 12. Getting their two members too. So are you doing pods? Are you doing divisions? Or is it just one big cluster? What are you doing? Are you going to have specific rivalries? How many are you? How many games are you going to play in your conference? This stuff gets super complex because one thing impacts the next. It's always going to be that way. Right now, the Big 12 plays 10 games. Everybody plays everybody, etc. You really don't see that very much in conferences where you have that much round robin. The Big Ten in basketball plays 20 games now, which is a really high number. But if you look at what this league could be, you can't play everybody in the same year. So how do you do it? And my first look at it, and I'm kind of scratching down some notes. It's only going to be for a few years anyway, because Oklahoma and Texas are leaving. You got 2, maybe 3 years with them. So my first thought is everybody is going, whether they want to admit it or not, they're going to want to play Texas or Oklahoma, 1, just for the prestige, and 2, for the money. Everybody's going to want Oklahoma or Texas to come to their place, period. It's just true. I can guarantee you both of them will, ironically, want to play UCF on the road, whether they want to admit it or not, for recruiting purposes. That is a lock. Now, whether the AD does, when I say Texas, I mean the coaching staff, not the AD. I have no idea what they want. But coaches are going to want to recruit in places there are a lot of players. Well, guess what? There's a lot of players in Central Florida. So you could see an Oklahoma matchup, or you could see a UCF and Texas matchup coming to the bounce house before either one of those schools enter the SEC. That's just my opinion. Again, 100% my opinion. 2, besides the obvious, meaning Cincinnati and Houston, which, UCF has played in various sports over the years and being in the same conference, who else is going to be your rival? That kind of helps define whether or not you do pods, meaning like 4 groups of 4 or something like that, or you do like 2 different divisions, or it's just one big open league and you just kind of rotate who you play year to year. I think that Houston and Cincinnati should be yearly opponents because they have history. Again, my opinion. I think there's a pretty good chance of that as well. It's kind of cool because you have some history. Why not keep it going? The other part with this is the oddball teams, because a lot of people, their fans will want to play them. I don't mean that in a mean way, but like where they're located. West Virginia is just, it doesn't belong in the Big 12 geographically, but either does UCF or Cincinnati. Teams are going to want to go there. It's something different for the fans, etc. And BYU is on a whole nother playing field because it's one of the most unique places on earth in terms of the aesthetics. If you have not taken the time to look at the stadium at BYU, there'll be some angles. If you look it up on whatever your favorite search engine is, the mountains are around it. It's like off a video game. It is insanely beautiful, and I highly recommend that you do it. So that's going to be something, but they don't have an affiliation with UCF. They don't have an affiliation with BYU, Cincinnati, etc. Who do they play? Why? Who gets to play them first on the road in that first year they're in the conference? Do they just draw straws? I mean, I have no idea, because everybody's going to, if they're going to play a road game, they're going to want that to be one of them. I guarantee you that. It's going to be easy money for the banks to roll in from all the different people headed out to Provo because it's a beautiful place. The restaurants, the hotels, everything will be busy. So with that, my best guess is the following. Cincinnati and Houston are the locks. If they're going to, even if they just do one big division, UCF should probably play those 2. And I'm guessing you'll have 2, maybe 3 teams a year that you always play. Maybe it's 4. Again, that's debatable. And then you just pretty much do round robin. The SEC has some weird old traditions with that. Like Alabama and Tennessee have to sign off. It's back from 1992. They signed a document that they have to play every year. If there's any movement in the divisions or whatever, that's fine, but they have to agree to it. Why the SEC allowed that, I don't know, but it's been on the books forever, and that's why they play every year. So is there going to be anything like that? Meaning, does Baylor always want to play Texas Tech, or does Baylor always want to play Houston? Is anybody going to be really, really difficult with that? My guess is yes. I just don't know which ones it will be. So Kansas State should obviously play. They're in state. That would be foolish. That's the easiest one. But how many is it? What are you going to do? 2 on this, is it going to be 10 games? Are you going to back off? Maybe play 9? They've been really boisterous about we're the only one that plays 10 and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I would assume they'd still play 10, but you run into a few potential issues and it comes down like this. It's just math. You have 12 regular season games. And for whatever reason, and I've never understood this, teams schedule years and years and years and years out. Some teams have 3 games already lined up, if not more, out of conference between now and the end of 2025. Well, 10 plus 3 is 13. Now you're canceling games. So they might start with less than 10 just to make it less legal jargon they got to go through and buying out games. That's possible. And then at some point they go to 10. Maybe they make them buy them out. I don't know. They can move them around. There's a lot of ways you can do it. But that's something to think about. Final point on this. Do you still want the conference championship game? I'm guessing they do, regardless if it's pods, regardless if it's a circumstance that it's split divisions, meaning like, you got half of teams on this side, half on this, the two winners playing the championship. I mean, it's pretty simple. But I don't know. If you're already set up, and this is why I did it in this order, to play certain teams every year, you're never going to have fair because there's no way around it. There are certain teams in every league in college football that just recruit at a far higher level than most others. It's true. Oklahoma and Texas, while they may play each other every year, they need to be in opposite divisions if they have two divisions because they'll have the most talent. There's no doubt about it. They will flat out have the most talent amongst those teams. Baylor, whoever, they're really the wild card because they're probably the third most talented right now. And UCF and Houston and Cincinnati are right in there after that. What's going to happen with them? And then Oklahoma State, they had this run this past year, but I think that team was more about seniors than anything else. They had a lot of good players, but they had a ton of seniors that were really key that kind of they hit a home run with and recruiting. A lot of 2-3-star recruit guys that were good, but you didn't know, and they all hit at critical position, like tight ends and stuff for one thing. But when you hit a corner and DN and stuff, that's different. They got some corners that were good. And one of them actually left, if I remember, if not both. So looking for greener pastures in their eyes. If you can find a way to balance it after those two is really the bigger thing. And that's where the groupings and all that come into play with the stubbornness of people in administrations. No, we want to be here, and here's why. And people being very stubborn can draw this out a long time. Well, they need to figure it out pretty quick because in 6 months, they need to pretty much be ready to get the scheduling going. So they got to get all this stuff done in the meantime. Are we playing 9? Are we playing 10? Are we having a championship game? Why are we doing it this way? Why are we doing pop? That is going to be a lot of meetings I would never want to have any part of. And it's quite frankly one of those things where most people probably wouldn't want to understand the jargon that's going on in the room anyway, because it's just big words trying to say this is how we're going to make the most money for our school. But you know how it is. That's big college athletics for you. The TV contracts and all that will be great, and they all make money, but they're still looking for extra cash. It's always about money. Now, as far as UCF, just my own guess, and this is what I'm hoping to, so I'm a little biased with this because I'm enamored with him. I'm hoping Baylor, if they go beyond a couple of teams, is a team they play, if they do divisions, or if it's just a team they play every year, is one of them. And the reason why is Dave Aranda's a good guy, from what I've heard. He's the head football coach for the Bears, and he's also recruiting well. He's also doing something that's very unique in terms of taking a 2-7 team in the COVID-shortened 2020 season, flipping that around, and the next year they won the Big 12. That's really impressive. So you're going to be playing a quality opponent, and if you want to be the best, you need to beat the best. UCF is always prided itself on trying to take that next step to that next notch to the next notch. Well, you're in the Big 12. There's no reason to shy away now. And I would be shocked if Gus Malzahn or anybody in UCF's athletic department wouldn't want that. Aranda is a heck of a coach, and I don't think Baylor's going anywhere. They'll be a top 15 team, barring, every now and then you have a year where your quarterback play doesn't work out or something. But 3 out of 4 years, I think that's going to be a top 15 team. I really do. And that's as long as Dave is there. The other program that, again, selfish reason, I hope it's BYU, but everybody's going to request BYU because they're going to, for road trips and to make money off of them, believe me, they have companies they set up deals with for road trips. Everybody's going to want to go to BYU. It'll be a landslide on the number one place for Big 12 fans to go on a road trip. There won't even be remotely a second place, and that includes UCF, in my opinion, because of Provo being so unique. There's only a couple places on earth like it. Everybody wants to go to Disney, so I think UCF will be second, but people go to Disney anyway. The football aspect of Utah and how much they love it, how much they have big stadium that they sell out, etc. All of that's going to work out. People are going to want to go. It's a very unique culture, the religion factor. There's a lot of unique things there. that people will learn about very soon. And I've got some experience around BYU through some other friends and watching them over the years. I've never heard a fan not enjoy the experience out there. So Baylor and BYU beyond Cincinnati and Houston would be my picks, but it could be TCU and Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and maybe you get lucky and Oklahoma is what it is for the couple of years they're there or something. But who is it that they play? I don't know. To wrap this up, note that UCF's going to have a press conference today. They're going to have a press conference probably sometime before the season about this. They want to stay in the news, and that's fine. They've done a great job giving everybody in the media information. But anything that happens, it's going to come to us. If I don't announce it, that means I didn't get an email. Believe me, they have a press conference right when they send out the email. So I'm going to put this in an article on Inside the Knights, and make sure you check it out. It's on FanNation. Got a lot of interesting stuff going on with recruiting right now. This next 2 weeks are going to be huge for UCF, and I think it's one of the reasons they announced the Big 12 thing. Everything's timing. For the schools with recruiting and stuff, it's great for Cincinnati, Houston, and for UCF to join that conference when you're having official visits. When kids come to campus this next weekend, they're going to talk about it. It's fact. Here it is. Here's the paperwork. So a lot of stuff to talk about there as well. And it's just going to be fun for me, if nothing else. So everybody have a great day. Thank you very much. And I look forward to covering UCF in the Big 12 in just about a year.